trying a different little light than the regular cabin lights. So now I can actually see without being blinded. But plan for tonight's lift with back. Basically, go nuts. Basically, go as crazy as possible. Those are kind of the key things that I'm thinking about for tonight. And should I have to explain myself any further? I would argue no. Right? I would argue that's pretty much the gist of it that I'm aiming for. But that's not totally true. So when I think of my back training in general, I'm not usually thinking like, okay, I want to do a lat focus day today and a mid trap focus day on the next back day. Usually it's just kind of, back is back, right? Hit the whole thing, go nuts. But that's not really the entire picture, of course, because obviously if my lats are a little bit extra fatigued one back day, then it's perfect for me. I can say, okay, I can tell my lats are still a little bit extra tired. Maybe I did like a crazy heavy leg press or something, and the act of physically like holding myself down to the seat, I was like getting some trap activation, or just for whatever reason, if they were a little extra tender, I can accommodate for that. I can just say, all right, my lats are a little sore, or a little more sore and worked than my traps are. Let's just make today, more of a trap focused lift. So kind of just a go by feel type situation. But given that I'm only training back today, I think all I got to do is, hit it hard. So pull downs, pullovers, rows of a few varieties. And then before I know it, I'm going to be freaking pumped to shit doing a rear lat spread in the mirror and thinking, whoa, I've never seen that vein before. I've never seen that mid-lat vein before. But that'll be for the end of the lift, right? But other than that, today, oh my goodness, I think I barely ate anything. I had a big bowl of, I basically only had like a breakfast. And that's not intentional. I was messing around with all the camera stuff, because with some of these, I may as well have been putting fucking Legos together, because it's just like a little tedious, like screw things, unscrew them, put it together, add a little pieces, just kind of, I was keeping myself busy. My ADHD brain was really getting stimulated when I was messing with all that stuff. But yeah, so my main meal was about 45 grams of carbs worth of jasmine rice, microwaved, water, 5 minutes, let it kind of bubble up, and then you're good. And then that was mixed with 50 grams of protein worth of egg whites, just cooked in a pot. That's one tip if you're curious. I love cooking the ground beef and eggs and really just basically anything in like a small saucepan instead of a regular like skillet or anything, because all I end up doing with like a full-on pan is making a mess and like splashing shit around. Because if I'm just trying to get something cooked, I can throw a pound of ground beef into a little pot, give it some stirring, every so often, and then before I know it, the whole thing's fucking cooked and I'm good, right? So it's that's a little Sam tip. You don't always have to use a pan. Same thing for steaks, man. Even if I've got just a small steak, if I have it in a pan, I don't need to add a whole like oil catching cover, because all the splashing is like kind of concealed within the walls. But now I'm getting ahead of myself here. But that was all mixed with 3 slices of regular American cheese. Not the most fat-free option I've got available. I've got some fat-free cheese in there too. It doesn't taste as good. So I can make up for, I can handle the fact that was 9 grams of fat, 6 of carbs, and about 10 of protein, which, processed cheese protein, probably not, an A+ 100% score on like the protein grading scale, but it is still, from a dairy product. And processed cheese, it isn't as processed as you might think. It's not like it gets completely, chemically undone. Like all they do is add like a few, I think there's like 2 ingredients. It's kind of funny. I like, if you've ever heard of Nile Red, he's this chemist. He's got a chemistry YouTube channel, but he made a video where he made processed cheese. And all it was shredded cheddar cheese mixed with like a certain amount of water, and then like a very small amount of this enzyme, which sort of denatures it and lets it melt together. So it's still coming from a dairy product. I mean, that's usually up there, right? Obviously, steaks and meats and fish and chicken and everything else, eggs, those are basically top tier protein sources. Milk, right? Dairy products, that's up there as well. So any derivatives, I mean, when you talk about cottage cheese as a protein source, or a casein source specifically, like I'd say that's fucking legit, But so that was all mixed together with some red hot buffalo and a little bit of sugar-free barbecue sauce, just all mixed into a schlop, and obviously not that good looking, but for what ended up being about, it was no more than 600 calories. I know that. I can't think of the exact math, but for only like, let's just say 500, that was a very filling 500 calorie meal. And that's what I'm aiming for, right? So I ended up not making use of that fact because I just, was playing around in my freaking like little office desk room all day. But still, that's what I'm aiming for. Because if I don't eat specifically planned meals like that, then all I'm asking for is trouble later on down the line throughout the day. Because what's going to happen if for breakfast, instead of like cream of wheat with some frozen blueberries, a little bit of cinnamon, and then like egg whites, that's a pretty freaking solid ass breakfast. That versus the same caloric amount of like cinnamon toast crunch with what else, like a toaster strudel. Like, sure, that's going to have the same amount of carbs or whatever else if I have the same protein and everything, but what those foods are going to do, right? More sugary, processed foods, and by process I just mean like, simple carbs, is it's going to spike my blood sugar much faster, right? Because sugars are going to digest and kind of hit your blood much quicker than like the carbs coming straight out of, some oats or something. But it's going to hit my blood sugar much harder, have a big spike, and then in response, right, as long as you're not diabetic, your pancreas releases insulin, which is going to bring your blood sugar back down to a regular level. But if you eat a ton of sugar all at once, and you're not like constantly eating in like a bulking context, then for me at least, that gives me a fucking blood sugar crash, right? Like, hey, you talk about a sugar rush, then a sugar crash kind of thing. That's not just made up mumbo jumbo, that's legit. So it just doesn't work. And then you're going to be hungrier later because now your blood sugar's low, and that's telling your body like, dude, eat something. You're fucking hungry. You got low blood sugar, right? That's why when everybody or when anybody talks about how they did like a month of no carbs, or like a carnivore month, or like keto or whatever, mainly just like no carbs, the first thing that these guys always say is like, man, my energy levels are so stable. And that's not to do with the fact that you're running off of fats instead of carbs. That's to do with the fact that now your blood sugar is not jumping all over the place because you're feeding yourself 50 grams of just straight, what would it be, probably sucrose in like a like a Starbucks tall, some kind of macchiato something with like 4 pumps of vanilla syrup as your breakfast. Right? That versus the guy who just had a standard black coffee with no extra sweets or anything, he's going to have a more continuous level of blood sugar than person B. So he's going to feel a bit more evenly energized throughout the day. Right? So that's what I'm getting at there. It's not like you can't have treats when you're dieting, but they come with complications. That's what I will say. And sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes the complications of having some treats dieting wise are worth it, just to kind of quench your sweet tooth. Like, I'd be lying if I told you, oh, when I'm dieting down, I turn into a machine. I'm just fueling the machine. I don't eat for taste. Like, and I think anybody that does say that, 99.9% chance, they're just bullshitting you, right? I think you can trust me when I say I like treats as much as the next guy, probably a bit more. But, I do know if I start slamming, like, I've got 150 grams of carbs that I want to eat today. if those all came from Krispy Kreme donuts, like sure, I'd hit my carb goal, but my blood sugar would just be all over the place. So what I'm aiming for is a bit more of a stable state of satiation, right? Not to specifically do some alliteration across this great nation, okay? But that's what I'm aiming for, right? I want steady energy levels, steady hunger levels, steady blood sugar levels, steady everything, right? Because steady is smooth, smooth is fast, fast is good, right? Because I want freaking I want to see like the gills on my serratus ASAP. But enough freestyling. How about we just get over there and get ready to start with something. I'll just have to see. I mean, when I'm warming up, I'll get a little bit of a feel for like not only what movement one I think I want to do, but also which ones are freaking open. You know, sometimes gyms are freaking packed and you got to work around or just work in with everybody around you. But no more talking. Let's get started. So, some of what I wanted to do was taken, but I'll just pivot and do some single arm pull downs here. And I do like a single arm pull down on this sort of cable setup. Take a seat on something. You could just sit on the ground, I guess. I don't know, I kind of like the extra comfort of this 10-pound medicine ball. And then, you know, squeeze the crap out of one side, repeat on the other, and just keep going nuts. So, it's not the most complicated start, but I know that this will do the trick. All right. Ooh. Yeah. You. Yeah. Yes. 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 Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. No. 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 Yeah. 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 Okay. Oh. All right. Let's just camp out here for a minute. Oh. Yeah. 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 Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. Ooh. Yeah. 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 Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. I think a row is in order. These will be nastier, quicker reps. Still good, but just on the quicker side of things. Oh, one more like that, except a little lighter. Okay. Ooh. Holy crap. I thought I felt kind of fucking strong on those single arm pull downs. These rows were heavy. And half of it might be to do with the fact that it's hard to breathe during a chest supported row because you're smushing your fucking lung cavity. But let's move on. A combination of the machines I wanted to use being taken and my desire to change it up. Let's do just a straight ass set of pull-ups. And I can do a couple, right? I'm not so muscle bound I can't do a few freaking pull-ups. But let me get amped up and go nuts here. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Let's make a drop set. Okay. Oh. Oh. Very strong probability that this is the last set. So alternating pullovers, 5 reps on one side, 5 on the other, as a pre-exhausting movement for just my lats. Then sit right here with these ropes, do some kind of mid-back squeeze and rows, and that'll freaking be it. So, well, as long as I can tell I'm fully pumped at the end of it. So let's just do it and make the executive decision after. Okay, let's go. All right, come on. Okay. All right. Let's go find some lighting. Back down. All right. I should be right in focus. You tell me if any of those clips were a little off. That was all kind of manually adjusted by yours truly. But back pumped to shit, lats especially. I didn't, I wonder if I spoke it into existence, but just based on the feeling of like actually doing the reps, dude, freaking, my traps were feeling extra fatigued and my lats felt basically extra fucking strong. So, like I was kind of, I guess, alluding to, right? Ended up being a freaking lat focus day. There we go. Yeah, right about there. Looks about right. Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah, that's what I'm aiming for. Get some cheeky freaking Christmas tree action. Oh, well, I'll just have to actually look at the clips of that and see how the back lat spread looks. With the front poses, I can kind of look at myself in the clip, but looking away, that's the benefit of having a posing room that has those double-sided mirrors. So like imagine a big mirror like right behind me above my shoulders, angled downward a little. I'd be able to look at myself through like a double reflection and then be able to adjust if like one shoulder was a little bit too high or too low or something like that. But one mirror at least has been doing the trick pretty well so far. But let's go pack this shit up, go home and eat something. I am starving. Guys, my diet is screwed. I stopped at the vending machine and I got a snack. No, not exactly screwed. I did stop at the vending machine though, but not for anything treat related. All I had was a little pack of fuck, what is this? What is this even called? Oh yeah, Jack Link's little beef jerky bites. And guess what? I'm gonna count the macros, right? I'm not simply gonna pretend that they didn't happen. You know, I'd be lying to myself if I didn't track and say, okay, I just had 2 grams of fat, 6 grams of carbs, and 13 grams of protein. Now, you know, from like a scrappy, maybe I should have just wrote 10 grams of protein to be to play it safe. with anything that's not like a dedicated protein source, usually that's going to be your best bet. Just because, I mean, if you tracked all your protein from indirect protein sources, I think you'd probably be eating a lot of like, you know, specific amino acids. That's what proteins are. But I'm not so sure you'd be really getting your full array of everything that you actually need, right? That's why there's a difference between branch chain amino acids and essential amino acids, right? Because EAAs are actually going to have everything you need to utilize and basically put together as protein synthesis, right? I mean, it's not a terrible way to look at it. I'm sure, any kind of dietitian or whatever might disagree. But the way I look at it, frankly, proteins are your building blocks. Fats and carbs, well, fats in a way are building blocks as well. You got cholesterol leading into everything else. But in essence, fats and carbs, those are your energy, right? So if you're not getting enough protein, you can have a million fucking workers at your job site, but if they've only got bricks, no mortar, guess what, man? That freaking building ain't going up, And of course, obviously, if you don't eat any protein, you could still build muscle. You're gonna turn your carbs into whatever, or if you eat no sugar, you don't just immediately explode. Your body just converts proteins and fats into sugar. I'm talking gluconeogenesis. God damn it. Not to be confused with Neon Genesis Evangelion. Right? I know that probably popped into some of your heads. No, not exactly. But that's the basics, right? That's how I look at it. So, you want to have an even supply of that building block and energy throughout the day. And some guys are going to go off on I love I'm doing one meal OMAD, one meal a day, like fasting, whatever. Or some guys are, what other things are here? Some guys do carb cycling where they'll do really low deficit carbs or calorie deficit for 6 days a week, and then that 7th day of the week they really kind of refeed. I mean, it's I'm not knocking that specifically. I'm just saying that's you're overcomplicating this stuff. If what your overall goal that you're aiming for is either bulking up or cutting down, right? So bulking up, eat enough food, eat it evenly throughout the day. Dieting down, don't eat too much food and eat that evenly throughout the day. I think that's probably your best bet. And in either case, a steady supply of calories, depending on whatever your calorie goal for the day is going to be your best bet. And both sides either have positives or negatives depending on that. So a good example, if you're pretending to, no, what am I saying pretending? If you're trying to bulk up and you've got a calorie limit or a calorie goal for your day of 3,500 calories, however many grams of protein and carbs it takes for you to get there, whatever. But if that's your goal and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you've only eaten 600 calories, your rate of calorie consumption is not in line with what your actual calorie goal is for the day. And then the odds that you actually are going to hit that goal by the time you go to bed, very low, very fucking low. Whereas if you had a 500 calorie breakfast, 500 calorie brunch, lunch, snack, dinner, little things like that, if you've been eating throughout the day consistently, it could be 4 o'clock and you could have already had 2,500 calories, and then you only have 1,000 left. So bulking up, you don't want to let time get away from you and be behind on your calories, because then you're going to end up in a totally awful repetitive loop of staying up late trying to play catch up with yourself, and then it's going to mess up your sleep. And I mean, I've definitely been in that situation where it's 2 o'clock, I'm sitting in the kitchen and I'm trying to scarf down a full bowl of just whatever it may have been at the time, and it's I stay up an extra late. But sure, I might have hit my calorie goal for that day, but then that morning comes around, I just ate a 1,500 calorie dinner and I had to force it down because I just had 1,000 calories 2 hours before. I'm not hungry for breakfast. I'm not even gonna be feeling much hunger until lunchtime, and then it just repeats, and then you're now eating later and later and later into the day. So that's kind of a situation that you can fall into if you get into it, if you try to get into the serious side of the bulking things. And then dieting down, Same thing in reverse, right? Don't let your calories get away from you. If it's noon and your calorie limit for the day is 2,200 calories and you've already eaten 1,500, then maybe 10% chance you're going to stick to that. And I'm not trying to like dog on you. I'm saying me too. Like I've got 2,500 for the day. If I ate 2,000 by noon, the odds are that I'm going to only eat 500 calories for the rest of the day is pretty fucking low. And you could say, well, Sam, if you really wanted it, then you'd just be able to handle it. And maybe I would. I can't say for sure. The situation just hasn't happened yet. But I'd be having no fun, and odds are I'd probably just somehow convince myself, like, oh, Sam, you already eaten basically all your calories. Just make today a refeed day. Just make today a little bit of a break. Give yourself, and then you start playing mind games where like give yourself a metabolism boost by eating extra calories today as a refeed. And it's like, I'm not saying refeeds are not a thing. They totally are, and that's the point of them. But if you're convincing yourself to take one by basically like bargaining in your mind of like, okay, well, do I want to stick to what my goal was, or do I want to go easy on myself? Well, I know I'm going to drive past Cane's, and I know Chipotle's right there. Okay, I'm going to make today a refeed day. You get like one refeed day. You could have one crazy refeed day like every 2 weeks. And by crazy, I mean like you ate an extra 1,000 calories over your deficit, right? But if you start doing that too often, you're no longer just doing a refeed day. You're just not dieting anymore, And that's not a situation that I want to get caught in. So rather than put myself in that situation where I have to say like, okay, crap, should I stick to it or should I just I'll just try to be a little more responsible with my meal intake and not exceed my targeted calorie per hour goal. Right, so I was getting into this a little bit before. I should really make like a really concentrated kind of dieting tutorial. Yeah, I'll try to like that's for later. But if I've got basically 12 hours, because I had lunch, or I had my first meal at noon, and I'm probably going to go to bed at midnight-ish. So that's 12 hours. And I'm aiming for 2,500 calories to be eaten across the entirety of today. So what that means is I can't eat more than about 210 or so calories per hour. So if it's 3 o'clock, 3 hours into my eating window for the day, and I've already eaten 1,000, then I've exceeded my fucking speed limit, and that's just not going to fly, right? So all I'm trying to say there is try to be a bit more mindful about your entire day. Plan your meals and your calorie intake accordingly. And that's not something that you can just follow a generalized template of, because you're not me and I'm not you either. Like for me, a little bit of a restart in my mind just then. But for me, in a dieting context, I have got zero problem skipping breakfast. I've got zero problem waiting till noon, sometimes even like 2 or 3 if I'm really feeling crazy that day, to have my first meal. And then I get to have a bit more dense meals later into the evening. And then some guys might bring up the argument, well, you have to eat your protein or else you're going to start putting yourself into catabolism, and you're going to start burning muscle because, dude, not exactly, right? Like I'm not that lean where I'm worried about catabolism. I'm just worried about not going over my calorie limit. But for me, saving my first meal for later in the day is a perfect hack. It works very well for me in the sense that it's just easy for me to do. And that's what everything about this training should be, in terms of you like targeting and pinpointing a routine that you can do, because obviously you have to go hard. Effort is a non-negotiable, be it dieting, the training, just being like, conscientious about all the ins and outs of your intake of your water, your electrolytes, your everything. But you don't need to make it extra fucking hard on yourself. The goal is to climb El Capitan. Now, you can either free solo it like Alex Honnold. At least I'm 90% sure it's Alex Honnold, correct me if I'm wrong, or you could just hike up the back of it, whoop-de-doo. And in either case, both of those guys made it to the top. So if that's the end goal, why do it the hard way when you can make it easier on yourself? You know, and that doesn't that's not necessarily the most like motivating thing to say, right? I mean, obviously it's more so like you got to step up to the challenge, right? You got to rise above it, show up, like. But there's no point making this shit more difficult for yourself than it has to be. So that's where, you know, you can kind of play chess with your routine, and if you can optimize it for you over the course of time, of course, it does take a while to get a good grasp of how you respond to like different meal timings and everything else. But if you can work on doing that and take, you know, small steps on the way there, then dude, in 3 years, and not only in 3 years of like figuring out shit for yourself, but you're gonna feel your own body. Obviously, you're gonna know your ins and outs and everything else. If you're really like keeping an eye on yourself and your progress, then dude, before you know it, you're gonna be a damn pro. You're literally going to become your own personal trainer who you've got access to 24/7, right? But now I'm just getting into, now I'm just, now I'm just like saying the same idea in a million different ways. But either way, if you're in a bulking context or if you're in a bulking phase right now, right, eat your meals, add some sauce, keep them moist. A bowl of dry rice and dry ground beef is not easy to eat. But if you throw some, even just sugar-free barbecue sauce on there, kind of dampen the whole thing, it's gonna go down easier. And if you're dieting down, dude, I'm talking fat-free cheese, low-carb bread, low-carb tortillas, low-carb or low-fat peanut butter, diet soda, every trick you got in the book, and all those things are gonna add up. But I've got arms tomorrow, so I'm not exactly sure what style of workout I'll end up doing, because it's like, well, I just got to focus on getting a good night's rest first. I can think about that tomorrow. So I'll just see you then.